The envelope was ivory, thick and elegant, the kind that whispers money before you even open it. My name was printed in gold cursive across the front, like we'd ever been that close. For a second, I thought it was a mistake. Then I saw the names, Lucas and Emma, and just like that, the air left the room. Lucas, my ex. The same Lucas who ghosted me after 3 years together. The same Lucas who once said we weren't aligned because I cared too much about building something real, and he wanted freedom to evolve. Now he was getting married, and he wanted me at the ceremony. As a guest. Correction, as a dear friend. I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, because it was surreal. There was a time I would have cried. A time when getting a letter from Lucas, any letter, would have meant something. But that time passed the day he left my apartment without saying goodbye, and later texted that he needed to grow in a different direction. And yet, here we were. I flipped the invitation over in my hand. The venue was a vineyard outside Santa Barbara. Formal attire, sunset vows, and RSVP required by the end of the week. I almost threw it out, but instead, I slid it back into the envelope and poured myself a glass of wine. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was pettiness. Or maybe, deep down, I wanted the version of me he left behind to walk into that wedding and be completely, unmistakably unrecognizable, because I wasn't the woman he walked out on anymore, not even close. So I pulled out my phone, tapped open the RSVP site, checked the box that said, attending, and under +1 I typed the name of the man who'd been by my side for the last year, quietly, confidently, without games. Julian Blake, my fiancé. The man who happened to be one of the most influential tech investors in the country, who wore jeans to board meetings, held my hand when I was anxious, and never made me question my worth. He didn't just see me, he valued me. And something told me when Lucas saw us walk in, he'd understand exactly what kind of mistake he made. Before Julian, before the silence broke with a gold-trimmed envelope, there was Lucas. And Lucas was charm, chaos, and control packaged in a smile sharp enough to cut through logic. We met at a networking event neither of us wanted to be at. He was magnetic in that offbeat, slightly arrogant way, always telling stories that ended with him being the misunderstood genius. At the time, I thought it was self-awareness. Looking back, it was rehearsal. He love-bombed me from day one, texted every morning, surprised me with takeout when I pulled late nights, sent Spotify playlists titled, For My Future Wife. We moved fast, too fast, but I mistook intensity for sincerity. We talked about marriage once, or rather, I brought it up. He said I was so grounded, so serious like it was a flaw. He said I thought too long-term for someone our age. We were 28. The cracks showed slowly. A missed dinner here, a forgot to text there. His eyes started drifting when we were out. Conversations got shorter. My win's a promotion, a keynote were met with lukewarm smiles and phrases like, "That's cute," or "You really want to be one of those people." He hated when I was too ambitious, hated when I asked for clarity. He said I pressured him with expectations. And then, one Thursday evening, he left. Said he needed time, space. He didn't pack a bag. He just didn't come back. The last thing he texted me was, "You're incredible. I just don't think we're meant to build the same kind of life." I stared at those words for hours, reread them, analyzed them like a code I was supposed to decipher. Then I deleted the message, and every photo, and every plan we never got to finish. For a while, I felt stupid, humiliated, like I'd been tricked into loving a ghost dressed in warmth. But eventually, the pain thinned. I learned how to sit with it without letting it sit on top of me. I stopped waiting for closure, because the closure wasn't coming from him. It would come when I rebuilt myself stronger, sharper, untouchable. And maybe, just maybe, the universe would someday let him see what he walked away from. After Lucas, I didn't date for a long time. Not because I didn't have options. I did. But none of them felt like peace. I poured everything into my work. My agency was still small, then barely breaking even. I started taking contracts no one wanted, the tedious, the messy, the late-night deadline disasters. I rebuilt my reputation brick by brick. Burned out a few times, cried more than I admitted. But I kept going. Within a year, I landed 2 major clients. Within 2, I was running a team. Not loud, not flashy, just solid. That's when I met Julian. He didn't walk into my life like a whirlwind. He arrived like still water, steadier than anyone I'd ever known. We met through a mutual friend at a fintech panel in San Francisco. I remember thinking, there's no way someone like him notices someone like me. But he did. He asked questions, real ones. Not what do you do small talk, but things like, what makes you feel most alive and what does freedom mean to you? He never name-dropped his companies or mentioned his net worth. I didn't find out he was a billionaire until our 5th date because he didn't lead with it. He didn't need to. Julian supported me like it was his default setting. If I stayed late at the office, he showed up with coffee. If I vented about a tough client, he listened without trying to fix it. He never made me feel like I had to shrink to keep him comfortable. When he proposed, it wasn't over the top, just us, in my kitchen, on a random Tuesday. He was barefoot, holding a tiny velvet box and smiling like he already knew my answer. The ring, a solitaire cushion cut stunning but classic. Timeless, quiet power. The kind of diamond you didn't need to flash because it did the talking for you. I said yes. Not because of the ring or the resume, but because, for the first time in my life, I felt completely chosen. No games, no conditions, no hidden expiration date. So when that wedding invitation showed up in the mail, Julian didn't ask why I wanted to go. He just smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, let's find something sharp for you to wear. And that's when I knew. This wasn't about revenge. It was about reflection. I had finally become the woman I'd always hoped to be. I submitted my RSVP the next morning. Checked attending, added +1, wrote Julian Blake in clean, confident type. No dramatic flair, no message attached, just facts. Then I closed the laptop, picked up my coffee, and looked out the window with a grin I hadn't worn in years. That weekend, Julian and I went shopping. He insisted, this is a tactical event, he said, half joking. We dress accordingly. He was right. I wanted something elegant but sharp. Something that said I didn't come to be remembered. I came to remind you. We found it at a small boutique off Fillmore Street. A black silk gown with an open back and a slit that hinted without begging. Understated jewelry, hair up, eyes fierce. Julian picked his suit navy, tailored, subtle flex. He didn't ask if I was nervous. He knew I wasn't, because it wasn't about causing a scene. It wasn't about showing off. It was about walking into a room I used to shrink in and taking up space without apology. The day before the wedding, I polished my nails and packed my bag. I tucked the invitation inside just in case anyone questioned whether I belonged. Julian handed me my ring box. Want me to hold it? He asked. I smiled. No, I want them to see it. The diamond caught the light, even in its case. Cushion cut, flawless clarity. Not flashy, just undeniable. We didn't rehearse anything. There was nothing to plan. Our presence would speak for itself. The night before the flight, I sat on the edge of our bed, rereading old journal entries. One from the week Lucas left, another from the week I landed my first solo 6-figure contract, and then one more from the day Julian proposed. The handwriting changed. So had I, and for the first time in a long time, I felt whole. Not in spite of the past, but because of it. Let them see what became of me. Let them see what he let go. The sun was just starting to dip when we pulled up to the vineyard. Golden hour hit everything just right. Rows of white chairs, delicate hanging lights, A string quartet tucked under an oak tree. Picture perfect. Curated. Expensive. Julian stepped out first, then opened my door like we weren't just guests, but royalty arriving fashionably late. Heads turned before I even stood. And when I did, it was like slow motion. The dress. The heels. The ring that caught the last light of the day like a firework. I didn't smile, I didn't wave. I just walked beside Julian, hand in hand, like I belonged there because I did. Inside. The energy changed the second we entered. People whispered. Eyes tracked me from one end of the room to the other. Some guests leaned into their partner's ears. I saw a girl mouth. Is that her? Yes, it was. The wedding coordinator offered to show us to our seats, clearly flustered. I politely declined. We'll find it. We didn't need a guide. We passed a group of Lucas's friends near the bar. One of them, the loud one from college, blinked and muttered, "Holy shut! That's her." I could feel the hush ripple behind me like a breeze. Then I saw them. Lucas and Emma. He was standing near the floral arch, drink in hand, talking to a relative. Until he wasn't. His eyes found mine, and everything about his face changed. He tried to smile. It landed sideways. Emma turned to see what had stolen his attention. And there I was, wearing everything she wasn't expecting, with a man whose presence couldn't be ignored, and a ring on my finger that sparkled with quiet authority. She didn't say a word. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her fingers clutched her bouquet just a little tighter. We walked past them without stopping. No nod, no greeting. Julian leaned in slightly and whispered, "That him." I nodded once. He squeezed my hand, and that was all I needed. We took our seats front half, far left, where we could see the whole ceremony unfold. I crossed one leg over the other, rested my hand on my knee, and let the ring catch the sunset. I didn't need to cause a scene. My life spoke loud enough. The ceremony began 15 minutes late. Something about waiting on a missing uncle or fixing a mic. But I could feel it wasn't just logistics. It was tension. Thick. Inevitable. Lucas kept looking in our direction. Quick glances at first. Then longer ones like he needed confirmation I was really there. Like he hadn't expected me to actually show. Emma stood beside him during the vows, radiant in ivory lace, but I noticed the way her eyes drifted not to me, but to Julian, then to our hands, then to my ring. When it caught the light again, I saw her blink, hard. During the reception line, we stayed seated, sipping champagne slowly, politely deflecting small talk from strangers, until Lucas approached. He walked toward us during the cocktail hour, no bride in sight. His posture said confidence, but his face said otherwise. "Wow," he said, like he wasn't sure where to start. "You look great." I looked up, expression neutral. "Thank you." Julian nodded, calm, civil. Lucas turned to him. "And you are." Julian extended a hand. "Julian Blake." Lucas shook it, but you could see the flash of recognition behind his eyes. He knew the name. Most people in tech did. He just didn't expect it to be attached to me. "Congratulations," I said coolly, before he could fumble into awkward questions. "Emma seems lovely." "Yeah, thanks," he said, but the words landed flat. He looked down at my hand at the ring, not subtle about it. "Nice rock," he said, trying to sound casual. Julian smiled. "She deserves the best." Lucas gave a tight laugh, but his eyes said everything that could have been me. Except it couldn't, because the man standing next to me wasn't just successful, he was steady, present, real. He didn't leave when things got hard. He didn't run from vulnerability. He didn't ghost, gaslight, or go quiet. He saw me, start to finish. Lucas opened his mouth like he wanted to say more, maybe even apologize, but stopped himself. Smart move, because there are no second auditions for a part you already fumbled. He gave a short nod, said, "Well, good seeing you," and walked away. No grand drama, no confrontation, just a quiet understanding between two people on completely different paths. And as he disappeared back into the crowd, Emma reappeared watching from across the lawn. Our eyes met for the briefest second. She looked at me, then at the ring, then down, and walked away. The toasts began after dinner long, over-rehearsed, filled with recycled jokes and forced laughter. We sat near the back of the reception tent, close enough to hear everything, but just far enough to stay unbothered. Julian held my hand under the table, his thumb tracing slow, steady circles on my palm. It kept me grounded. Not because I was nervous, but because I was very aware of the eyes. The bride's college roommate made a toast about taking risks and finding true love even when it's unexpected. Lucas's dad followed with a long-winded speech about destiny, timing, and growing into the man he'd always hoped Lucas would be. That one almost made me laugh. After dessert, guests began milling around again. The band played a jazzy cover of Yellow. The wine kept flowing. That's when the ripples started. It began with a woman I didn't know, mid-30s, cocktail in hand. She stopped by our table and said, "Sorry, I just have to ask. Is that a Blake design ring?" I smiled. "It is?" She nodded, wide-eyed. "I've only seen them in Forbes features. He must really love you." I glanced at Julian. He does. More people approached after that. A cousin of the bride, one of the groom's co-workers, all complimenting the ring, all asking questions, all slowly connecting the dots. I caught Lucas watching from across the dance floor, not with anger, not even jealousy, just realization that what he let go had grown into something he couldn't even recognize now. Emma stayed close to him the rest of the night, but she was quiet. Tight smiles, shaky laughter. You could tell something had shifted. But I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Later. As Julian and I stepped out onto the balcony for some air, the string lights above us flickered softly. He looked over at me, his expression unreadable, then asked, "Feel good about coming?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "Yeah." Not for the reason I thought, though. Closure. No, I said clarity. There's something powerful about walking through the fire and realizing it no longer burns. I didn't come to flaunt a diamond. I came to prove something to myself. That I could show up, stand tall, and smile at the past without needing it to apologize. We didn't stay long after the dancing started. Julian slipped his hand into mine as the crowd moved toward the dance floor, and without a word, we drifted toward the edge of the tent, past the fire pits and dessert bar, down a stone path toward the valet. No dramatic exit, no last glance back, just done. And not the angry, bitter kind of done. The kind of done that feels like finally exhaling after holding your breath for too many years. The valet pulled up Julian's car. He opened my door like always casual, unperformative, and I slid in, the silk of my dress catching the light one last time as I tucked my legs in. He got behind the wheel, paused before starting the engine, and looked at me. "You okay?" I smiled. "Yeah, better than okay." I looked down at my ring, simple, stunning, solid. The opposite of everything Lucas ever was. This was never about them. I said, "Not really." Julian nodded. "Nope, it was about you." And he was right. The real win wasn't the dress, the whispers, or even the ring. It was the silence that used to haunt me. Finally staying quiet. It was walking into a space I was once made small in and taking up room without needing to ask. It was knowing I didn't have to prove my worth to anyone in that vineyard, because I already had to myself. The car pulled away from the gravel drive, headlights sweeping over rows of vines, the sky above fading into deep blue. In the distance, music still played. But I didn't need to hear the ending of that story. Mine was already moving forward,